You know, Ben 10's really changed my life trajectory in a massive way. I practically started my YouTube channel almost 10 years ago talking about Ben 10.
This is a Ben 10 reboot rant, brought to you by A.S.K.
And since then, I made over 70 videos on this show. Can't say it hasn't paid off for me, and I'm really glad it did, because this show has so many amazing things to talk about, and so much to continue talking about. Today is the 20-year anniversary of the franchise, and I've been planning this video for a long time. I wanted to do something grand, something illustrious, something massive, but I realized, when we look back on this franchise, it's really all a story of humble beginnings. And so, everyone else might make grand hour-long videos on this franchise today, but I wanted to stay grounded with something I surprisingly never talked about on this channel as a standalone video, and that's the history that got Ben 10 greenlit for air. The original designs and the lore behind the show's creation. If you enjoy the love I put into Ben 10, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to support the channel. Let's do this by going back to where this all started.
At the beginning.
Ben 10 started as one of 20 rapid-fire pitches made by Man of Action to Cartoon Network in 20 minutes, with the 8th concept, Ben 10, standing out as a story about a kid who could transform into multiple heroes using a watch-like device. The initial show names around this time, 2002, were Ben to the 10th and Force 10, with the creators settling on Ben 10 near the end of the 3-year development stage. Inspired by an old DC comic called Dial H for Hero, Duncan Rouleau of Man of Action initially created the concepts for the characters, until Stephen E. Gordon designed Ben, the Watch, and 10 human-like superheroes. Later, Greg Johnson pitched the idea that Ben would turn into aliens, not heroes. The Omnitrix was originally called the Megawatt, which would be an abbreviation of Mega Deoxyribonucleic Transdimensional Transforminal Numerator. Phew, still got it. So let's go through Stephen Gordon's original designs, because some of them are really different from what we ended up getting. Ben himself looks quite different here, and almost reminds me of those retro styles they went with in the early 2000s with Spidey Unlimited or Batman Beyond, you know? He's got the red hair, a more slender physique, with an orange and white long sleeve shirt on, so quite different from the black and white he later gets. The green cargo pants check out, and his shoes aren't wildly different. You can see the Omnitrix here is quite different than anything we later get in all 5 shows, resembling a more magic-like glowing orb with much less bulk and only 4 prongs holding it to the wrist. It looks a lot less attached to Ben here, and definitely fits more of a magic vibe than an alien one. There was another version of the watch that we see, and you can see this one resembles a much more analog wristwatch vibe. It has 10 options to choose from, with the dial being just a regular watch dial on the left, and in terms of color, we don't see the iconic green and black hourglass here, and it looks quite earthly to be an alien device. I guess you could also activate the watch using the 2 buttons on the top and bottom, but yeah, ultimately I think the upgrade to the final Omnitrix was definitely an improvement on both of these. But seeing Ben as a redhead is actually pretty surreal, and it's interesting to imagine what it might have been like to see that in the show proper. As for the aliens, the first thing we had was the human hero standing behind Ben, and honestly they look pretty cool, even if this is pretty basic looking stuff. You can see early attempts at the Heat Blast hero, someone that looks like a ninja guy, an Aquaman dude, and obviously the Giant Man ripoff looming over them all. Ben's clothes here are slightly different, but you can see the way it probably would have looked in the show if they went forward with this. Thankfully, we got a sharp pivot to alien forms, and you can see the early iterations of some of these. These were also designed by Gordon, who made them more alien-esque from the advice of Greg Johnson, an artist who went uncredited in the show. So starting with our first alien, Heat Blast was originally called Inferno, whose design I actually really like. I like how there's fire coming out of his elbows, and he kind of resembles the Thing for me. Something I didn't know was that Diamond Head was actually supposed to be the first alien Ben transforms into in the pilot. Fortunately, there isn't any preliminary character design for him. The things we got later are quite similar to his final design, so it looks like he was left almost untouched from inception. The first design to be greenlit was Forearms, who was originally called Strong Guy, which is just such a lame name. The design doesn't have the iconic red color, but you can see some interesting design choices, like the Ninja Turtle feet and hands, or the Omnitrix symbol on his chest, the likes of which no other alien here actually has. The closest thing to it was on Grey Matter's design, which has a more similar Omnitrix design to the one on Ben's wrist. This Grey Matter is just your typical Area 51 gray alien and looks more humanoid with a slender design. He later gets a space helmet as well, which looks pretty cool, but I can't imagine where he'd use that. Maybe put on his thinking cap and get to work. Apparently this concept was deemed to be scary for kids, so they later went with a frog-like design instead. Guess they didn't see Ghost Freak's design yet, which was super freaky and one of my favorites here. He's totally different from the Grey Ghost or even the upside down head one we later get in the show proper, but man, that smile is creepy as hell. Another major deviation was Stinkfly, originally called Dragonfly, who just kind of resembles a bug dude flying with bug wings. You can see this design come back in some part with the reboot design. Definitely much more humanoid than they later settled on in Classic. I will say though, I appreciate that we can actually see his eyes here, as I always thought the Stinkfly sees out of the Omnitrix, not his 4 eyes in the actual show. Just have to throw that out there, in case any of you thought the same thing. Anyway, this one had a lot of other designs, before before they were all vetoed by Dave Johnson, who settled on the one that was the hardest to animate, but which captured the bug essence the best. You can see some cockroaches and other fly elements here, but I think they made the right choice there for sure. Then we had Digger, the only one here to be actually scrapped entirely. He was replaced by Wildmutt, but I actually really like this dude. He should have at least been brought back in some capacity in the show. Just throw him in there with Spitter and Arctiguana. Wildmutt himself didn't change much, although he was blue at one point, which is super crazy to think about. Plant Guy is the predecessor to Wildvine, and I think he looks pretty nice. Wildvine's final design is just perfection, but you can see some early inspiration here with the root hands and the head emerging out of the neck. Razor Jaws was the early idea for Rip Jaws, and this one I do really like. I'm on the cusp of saying he would have actually been better as the final design. For once, it's actually less humanoid than the one we ended up with, and the purple color with the green symbols on his skin would have added some amazing contrast to the roster, kinda like Forearms is red. Upgrade is the weirdest one for me, cause I can't imagine how this dude would fix anything with a computer. He just looks like your generic Transformer humanoid hero, and I'm glad they ditched it for the Blob concept. Finally, we have Accelerate, who is evidently much more humanoid here than his final version. Kinda reminds me of Stretchilio, which we covered in my Unseen Bent and Alien series a while back. I like the long sharp fingers, but nothing can replace the final Accelerate design for me. Ultimately, all these designs were scrapped and replaced by Dave Johnson, who was basically a co-creator of Classic in terms of the art department. He went all out and designed his own alien versions of Duncan Rule's concepts, which were the same basic designs that were later finalized and put in the show. Reportedly, Johnson never even looked at Gordon's designs and made them with a completely blank slate in his mind. After 20 years of knowing everything we do about this franchise, it's easy to look back and laugh at this development stage and all they did, but you gotta imagine how crazy it was to come up with these from scratch. And the level of sophistication that ultimately went into the original 10's designs and concepts is something that I don't think the casual viewer could truly appreciate. Happy 20-year anniversary to the show I love, Merry Christmas to you all, and I'll see you all in 2026. Thanks for watching.